Welcome to Patreon Q&A. I'm not sure which episode. We're getting there. Today I'm talking about staining and I'm hiccuping because I've just had a coffee. It's very cold in here. It's lunchtime and it's cold. We have miscalculated. But anyway, so yeah, a couple of questions. This is the first one from George Gray. He says, I have a question about staining and finishing. I am currently working on my 12th build, well done, and I usually do oil finishes for the simplicity. I know the feeling. And I personally like the look. Me too. This is getting old. Do you like Crimson guitars? Yes, I do. It said, no, Karen. Okay. I'm in a good mood. I just had lunch. It's all good. But this build is a mahogany and ambrosia maple back with a book-matched ash top. I'd like to see that. I plan on doing very thin black and white binding with a black to blue burst. Crimson stains, of course. I would love to lacquer it for a nice gloss, but I'm not sure what to do for grain filling after using the stunning stains. And that's your first problem. Or is it? Is there a product you can recommend, or am I relegated to layering and sanding the lacquer until my arm falls, or forcing me to learn how to play guitar one-handed? That was my impression of the emoji he put. Any help would be great. Okay. There are several products. What we actually tend to do is exactly what you described. The whole arm falling off thing. Fillers are problematic. We've just never found one that is absolutely does what we want every time. Saying that, however, there is something called Thixotropic grain filler, and I've actually gone downstairs and asked Christopher about this, and that is the one that he used to use when he was working in the States. And Rothko and Frost is a UK company, and apparently they sell the same thing. It's said to be a transparent grain filler. That works very well. Now, we haven't experimented with that, but Christopher says if it acts anything like what he used to use, then it will be beautiful to use and will do very well. I would do that before applying stain where possible, although, yeah, so ash top, yeah. It's one of those things. It's there we go. Okay, that is the recommendation. Thixotropic grain filler, that's what we would use. Alternatively, just spray thin coats, fill it with lacquer, rub it back, and so on and so forth, which is what we tend to do at Crimson. If you guys know of any particular brand names that you have used, please let us know. There are different ways. There are different methods and a lot of homegrown grain fillers as well that work very well using pumice and various other interesting things as the filler. So at some point I'm planning on developing a Crimson filler. So anyway, the next question, this is from Richard Garnish. He says, how does resin stabilized wood react to stains and finishes? I have a piece of spalted beech that would make a really interesting book-matched top, but I expect it will be too soft in some places. Should I stain it before resin? Or will this end in a mess? And what kind of finish would then be appropriate for it? Okay, so you can either use resin to stabilize things or superglue. Superglue does work very well and actually makes a really nice finish if you just keep on going. The problem with superglue is it is incredibly toxic stuff, and in that amount you have to do it somewhere very well, very well ventilated. And then also sanding down superglue is problematic. Now, with either the superglue or the resin method, you're not going to be able to stain it. Not in the traditional sense of the word. You could, however, if you do want a tint, you could add tint to a clear coat of lacquer. And it doesn't give quite the same transparent 3D effect, but you know, it's color and you want color, so yeah, that is an option. Now, should I stain it before resin, or will it send in a mess? Yes. Basically, if you want to stain it, I'm looking at the resin guitar over there. If you want to stain it, then get an absolute perfect finish, sand up to what, 600 grit or whatever, where you normally go to, 400 or 600. Apply your stain. If it's the crimson stain, make sure that you damp down the wood beforehand to raise the grain, sand it down, raise the grain, sand it down, and then damp it 2 or 3 times until the grain stops raising. So just damp it, don't wet it. Let that dry at least overnight. Apply stain. You shouldn't get a raised grain. The whole point is preparation here. You want to get the surface that you're going to finish as perfect as humanly possible, and then throw on resin. As to your final finish, resin is compatible. Most resins, you have to double check depending on what brand you're using, but most resins will work fine with a 2K PU or something like that. I assume that it would work fine with a rattle can finish as well, but without knowing the actual brand names involved, I can't really say. But you can just use the resin. So if you buy, I don't know, half a kilo of 2K resin, just build the resin up and treat that like lacquer. It works, it's a valid finish, there's lots of rubbing down involved, but it's not as toxic smelling as rubbing down superglue. And then I've seen awesome superglue finishes. In fact, there's a video there, I'm gonna have to do a tutorial on that at some point, just as an experiment to see for myself. Anyway, there we go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being amazing supporters of Crimson and myself. I do appreciate it. Give me questions, give me more questions, and we'll be back very, very soon. This video is delayed because I've just got back from the Birmingham Guitar Show, and editing after that was slightly problematic. But hey, it's all good. I will be back with more soon. I'm going to play with resin now. Thank you very much. Goodbye.